Sorry ladies, I had some technical issues there and I was talking away to a phone that wasn't recording. So what we're talking about now is how the heart beats. So I've drawn in black here your pacemaker or AV node and your SA node here, which are linked to your Purkinje fibres. So how the heart beats. So your atria fill with blood first of all. So your atria, two top chambers. Your AV node, your pacemaker, then sends a message down the walls of the atria that cause the atria to contract. That pushes the blood into the ventricles. All right. Now the ventricles are filled with blood. Now your SA node then sends a message down your Purkinje fibres, these nerves down here, down the ventricle walls, that cause your ventricles to contract, and that then causes your blood to be pushed out of the heart, either all around the body if it's the aorta, or to the lungs if it's the pulmonary artery. So they are the steps of the heart beating there. Now moving on to your vessels, okay, your next organ of the circulatory system. Now so you've got three vessels: your artery, your vein, and your capillary. So your artery and your vein are very similar, however your lumen in your vein is much larger. The reason for that, girls, is that it has less of this middle layer here, which is your involuntary muscle layer. Okay, now I haven't labeled these because I don't have that much room around it, but the outer layers, girls, are your this layer here is your collagen layer, then you've got involuntary muscle layer, then you've got your endothelium. Okay, so collagen, involuntary muscle, endothelium. All right, so you can label that yourselves. Your veins also, girls, they have valves here which stop the backflow of blood. Now it's really important that your arteries have a thicker layer of muscle than your veins, because that's quite important to allow them to withstand the pressure of the heart beating. If it didn't have that, you could get breaches and holes forming in your arteries, which would be really bad. Okay, that would be like a hemorrhage. Okay, and then you've got your capillaries here. The capillaries are the smallest form of blood vessel that are 1 cell or 2 cell thick, and that allow the movement of what's called interstitial fluid, or fluid from your plasma that contain oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients out into tissues, which is really important. So you should know the structure of these three, girls, and the differences between the two. Remember, arteries always go away from the heart, veins always go to the heart, and your capillaries then let things in and out of the vessels themselves. Now let's talk about I can't remember if we've done this or not, your pulmonary circuit and your systemic circuits here. Okay, so apologies if you've gone through it already in that video, I just can't remember where we stopped and started. So your pulmonary circuit, girls, your heart is a really efficient organ because it's divided blood flow into your body into two different systems. Your pulmonary circuit sends blood, it's the right side of the heart, it sends blood all the way around your all the way around to your lungs. Okay, so that's your right side of your heart. So it sends blood all the way to the lungs to allow it to pick up oxygen and to come back to the heart. Okay, so that's the right side of the heart here. Okay, the pulmonary circuit. The systemic circuit then, girls, sends blood all the way down to your toes and back again, to ensure that every cell in your body can get oxygen and can give up carbon dioxide and get glucose and stuff for respiration. Okay, so there's the way the heart is divided into two, and they're the two different circuits that are involved there. Okay, now in terms of your types of circulatory systems, girls, this is kind of at the start of the chapter, and this is something that tripped a lot of people up in your mocks. So you've got an open circulatory system and a closed circulatory system. More primitive more simple organisms use an open circulatory system. It's a really inefficient method for sending nutrients and oxygen around your body because they're open tubes. So blood essentially just diffuses into tissues and it doesn't all move in one direction, whereas your closed circulatory systems, which is what we have, your blood all circulates in one direction. It's much more efficient, it's much better for complex organisms. So they're the two types of circulatory systems that can be found in different types of organisms. All right, now blood pressure. So your blood pressure here, girls, is a normal range is 120/80. Now what they do when they're taking your blood pressure, girls, is they put a cuff around your arm and they measure the pressure required to stop the blood flow in an artery when your ventricles are contracted, that's called systole, and when your ventricles are relaxed, which is called diastole. So that's the top reading here: pressure required to stop blood in an artery at ventricular systole, when the ventricles are contracted. This is 80 is the pressure required to stop blood at ventricular diastole, when your ventricles are relaxed. Okay, that's your normal range. Your pulse rate, girls, should be between 60 to 80 beats per minute. Okay, we did a little experiment on that as well, looking at the effect of exercise and heart rate. So we measured at rest using your 2 fingers, bringing them up to your jugular vein underneath your jaw and counting the number of beats per minute at rest. That was while sitting or lying. And then we did some moderate exercise, we measured the pulse rate then, and then we did some strenuous exercise, we measured the pulse rate then. We timed the length of time it took for your heart rate to go back to normal, which is a measure of fitness. Okay, the longer it takes, the less fit you are. Now, environmental effects on the heart, girls. Your diet will have a huge effect on your circulatory system. Exercise will, and smoking will. Okay, diet, girls. You shouldn't have a diet that's high in saturated fats. That could lead to clogging of your vessels and lead to possible things like strokes and heart attacks and increased blood pressure. Exercise is good for your heart because your heart is made of cardiac muscle. The more exercise you do, the more efficient you make it, and the more fit it is, and the better, more healthy circulatory system you have. Smoking then increases your blood pressure, girls, and can lead to what's called atherosclerosis, or an increase in blood pressure as well. And then what other things do we have to discuss? The last thing I think I mentioned, or should mention, girls, is how the heart itself gets its blood supply. So you've got a little kind of hole in your aorta here that feeds what's called your coronary arteries. So your coronary arteries are what feed the cardiac muscle in the heart itself. It's really, really important. Now, what you can happen, girls, with poor diet and poor exercise and smoking, girls, you can get little clots forming in those, which means that part of your wall of your heart is starved of nutrients and oxygen, which means part of the wall of the heart dies. That's a heart attack. That's a coronary, all right, which is very, very detrimental to your health as well. So you can have what's called an external pacemaker fitted there, which is like a little electrical box that will shock your heart if it stops. So girls, I'm hoping that covers everything that you wanted. Thanks very much.